Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Everyman for Everyone, our weekly, bi-weekly, sometimes tri-weekly when I fall asleep, look into the Everyman format as created by us here at Married with Clix. Okay, it was mostly by me. Yeah, so what do we talk about in this show? We take your commons and we build a format just based around our commons and our fast forces and our starter sets. Yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing. I've kind of created the format and then decided to make a conversation about that. Why do I make a conversation about that? Because what good is it when you just create a format without talking about its own metagame or its own, introductions with new sets, etc. As of course, Earth X has just come out. 16 new figures got added to our collection. 24 figures just got added to the collection of commons in the format. Now, before we get too much into it, I do want to take a second to point out on the Everyman for Everyone format page which you should be able to find a link in the description below. We have updated the document. So if you go way down to the bottom, Earth X is in there. I'm actually kind of looking forward to rotation so this article shrinks just a little bit because there's just way too much going on. I forgot to change the updated date. I'll fix that later on. That's the most recent thing that has occurred with regards to the format. So we are now on top of Earth X. I apologize for the delays from last week. I generally manage the format on Thursdays, as I'm supposed to do. And because I was a big numpty and fell asleep last week, I kind of failed in my job on that one. So in order to avoid that, I am drinking energy drink in the wee hours of the evening. All right. So, what are we going to talk about this week? Well, I always like to start with story time. And by story time, if you watch the Meta Lab, you'll note that I mentioned that I went to a Magic tournament on this past weekend. And those of you who are unfamiliar, I play Magic in one of two ways. One way is what is known as the Commander format. It is a super casual format that is created to just kind of use your junk rares. It's a cool thing, and it's something I'm planning. I'm trying to come up with a really good version of it in our game in HeroClix. But it's when I say it's going to be a big version of a game. This is going to be like how to format for 2,000 point games. This is going to be stupid. And ultimately, we want to make sure if I create some kind of here's one of the beautiful things about HeroClix. Let's just not kid ourselves. I'm fiddling around with my Magic cards. I don't know why I was going to talk about that, but one of the beautiful things about the game of HeroClix is that technically I don't have to be creating this because unlike most games, HeroClix kind of just gave us the tools to create our own formats. If you want to make massive army battles that are supposed to last for like 2 or 3 days, play a 10,000 point game. Good luck finding the space, and slap a couple maps together in some cases. Go for it. This is the intent of things. You are supposed to kind of just make it up as you go. That's one of the great things I like about the game. But when I created this format, my goal to some degree was if we could get the patron backing and we can get the backing behind it, we could start a tournament series where stores could just start, and it is like a no-cost extra, just run the format for us guys, and whoever runs the format best or most or has the most participation would get some kind of prizing package. That's still a wish that we would love to fulfill, but I don't think that's going to be happening in the near future. Anyway, so long and the short of it, I kind of went off on story time and went on a tangent, as I'm off to do. But my tangent was from saying I went to a Magic tournament, which is the birthplace of where I came up with this format. In Magic, it is called Pauper. Pauper being one of those like medieval words for, hey, you're a poor person. and you can't afford things. So here's a proper format, which is take all your commons, which you have plenty of. I guarantee if you play this game, you have plenty of, much like HeroClix, and use them in just this format. And the format itself, because Magic is a little bit more old school friendly, it is a what we call a legacy format, where you can go back to set 1 of Magic and go till set now. I found that unwieldy for this particular format, though I may come up with an alternative where we go a little deeper into the older things. I just don't. I feel like Modern is where HeroClix is pushing itself, and it doesn't really support in the Golden. So I think where we are from there. I lost in this prop tournament a lot, by the way. I am not good at Magic. I don't even think I'm all that good at HeroClix, to be brutally honest. Some people hold me to a higher pedestal than others. That's fine. But ultimately, right now, where I stand with the format is I'm going to continue to support it. I'm going to continue to make this show. I'm going to continue to support players who are interested in the format, stores who are interested in the format, judges who are interested in the format. And I will also, do my best to make sure that the list is updated. So, because the reason I created the original website was for clarity. Originally, I had a PDF that was kind of all over the place. And because of that, we just didn't have a static source, and I don't know. I couldn't keep track of that PDF or have a single reliable, downloadable, replaceable version, because so much of our stuff is relying on Facebook and existing formats. And then I realized we had a WordPress blog, so I thought, hey, let's just update a WordPress link and then just shove that link in our descriptions, and we're good to go. So that was another beauty thing that we managed to figure out. I'm currently working on planning my calendar around setting up an Everyman tournament locally. When I placed in the top 4 at Team Worlds with Tom and Steve, we got a lot of stuff, and I want to use a lot of the extra stuff that I have accumulated to prize out this event after I'm done trading and kind of reaping some of the benefits of my own. That I'm allowed to do that, right? The other thing is just when I do this with the store, I reap no benefits from it except giving back to the community for the most part. The store generally just kind of takes a fee and kind of rolls with it. I haven't negotiated that with the store. I hadn't planned on negotiating it with the store at any point, though at some point I may just do that. I'm not sure. Yeah. So that's kind of been my updates. I'm planning an event at some point. Probably not gonna happen till like May. I'm gonna say May. Let's tentatively hold it in May and see what happens from there. And then barring anything from that, we'll see what's up in the world. What else is up? Not much. EarthX is out. I haven't had any tournament reports, so if you do plan on running this tournament, please do me the favor. Let me know how it goes, and let me know if you can share any team results, teams, anything like that. I would much appreciate it, because I like to see the meta game of this develop. There has been one area that has been very gung-ho about it, and I'm really hoping to see some results. There's going to be an Everyman project tournament in late March in Reading, Pennsylvania. That's pronounced Reading, Pennsylvania, right? In conjunction with the Rock Minimap. So that's pretty cool. And that's one of the things I wanted to bring up is when the Rock changed their format to the Winamap and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Winamap format is the one that you're allowed to run any format for, and does still have pointing for placing at a certain place in a Rock Winamap towards your nationals and so on. Now, the best you can get on a Winamap, I believe, is either 10 or 20 points on a win. That's not all of your points. It's like a fifth of your points. But I think that's still pretty cool. And the fact that we can run these alongside the Rock Winamap format is very important. Because one thing I also want to bring up is it's really come to people's attention. The Rock doesn't run the Rock limited format anymore as one of its major events. But what they do allow is in these Winamaps, you're allowed to, as a judge or as a store, run any format for your Winamaps. So as a result, you can run an Everyman format. You can run, there's another, okay, I'm going to clarify this in a second, but you can run an Everyman format tournament, and you can run a former Rock Limited tournament. You could run one of those Pauper tournaments. That's also okay. So just to quickly clarify, folks, there are two poor man formats in HeroClix kind of being discussed. One is actually called Pauper. They kind of rolled with the magic name on that one, but that also allows uncommons in their format. And I don't think they allow fast forces and starters. The Everyman format is the one where we allow just commons and just fast forces and starters. And this is a question that comes up a lot. I want to address this now before we go into our team building fun that we like to do on this show. It is often people ask me a lot, like, why do you include the fast forces? Why do you include the starter sets? What is or they disagree with me? And my reasoning is very simple. You need maps, and 9 times out of 10 when you're looking for a map, it's in a starter set or a fast forces of some sorts. And I think it's important that we keep people purchasing these things because, for one, we need maps in the format, and there's nothing I can do to stop non-common, like, there's no commonality to maps. Unfortunately, I can't stop prizing maps. I can't stop I just don't want to manage that. Every map that's legal in a HeroClix tournament is legal for the commons format. Unfortunately, that means yes, there's an extended metagame that some people may see as pay to win. Unfortunately, it sounds like with regards to maps in that manner, HeroClix becomes to a certain way pay to play. Unavoidable. It's unfortunately unavoidable. If you want a choice in maps, yeah, you got to pay out a little bit of money. I mean, if you want a choice in characters in this format, you got to pay a little bit of money. I mean, it's 50 cents a pop for the most part, especially if you go to Troll and Toads. But, that's kind of the here or there. So ultimately, the reason I said fast forces and starters are allowed is a twofold. And the first one, of course, being you need to buy these things to get the maps. So why not just let the figures that are in there be part of the format? In addition to which, they are also white tabbed marked. What that means is I now have a consistent identifier for characters that are legal in this format, and they will not have a green line, and they will have a white tab. Unfortunately, I just cannot allow primes on good conscience because they follow the rarity that is similar to chases, and because of that, they do hit a higher point value. They're hard to acquire. The goal was, of course, if I buy a brick, I generally 9 times out of 10, with a few here or there points, I've got a full common set, and that's kind of been the comfort level I've followed for this, and it's why I kind of like it. That said, that's kind of why I allow these things. An individual unique modifier, which is the white tab, and no green line. I mean, a green line is pretty obvious, right? So they have a green line, and that white tab, no. They have a white tab and no green line. Cool. That is everything that is very clearly laid out on the document, because I do say non-prime figures between figure 1 and figure 16 in the listing. And then, of course, I had to very specifically say in Avengers Infinity, I think it was, not specifically the one unique non-prime character. So that's why I went on 15 minutes about nothing, guys. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm the worst. All right. So that said, I hope that adds a little bit of clarity for everybody. And I hope nobody is taken aback still by this. And, of course, I do wish the guys running the Pauper format a lot of well. They've been running something that I kind of wanted to do. But whoever's in charge of it is a little bit more gung-ho, I guess, than I am, or has his own sort of thing going, and I applaud him for it. And I do like that other formats are being run, and nobody has to worry about hiding them. I think it's a great time for HeroClix, and we're all trying to find that space filler for the limited format. And I think both of these formats are also agreeable, and I think the limited format is also still fairly good. Though I think as the format progresses and we start to see these equipment become dominant on the field, it might be time to step back and say, okay, we probably might want to address removing these from this particular format, but because that format doesn't exist, it's time to maybe rethink rebuilding it. And somebody wants to take that on, please do that. Anyway, I'm done talking about formats for the day. It is time to talk commons and building and the fun stuff we all like me to do on this show. So we're going to pop over to our HC Realms scene. I'm right here, and there's HC Realms. All right. So we have EarthX, and today I kind of wanted to start with this one. And it's an interesting set in the fact that nothing stands out as oomph. Like, nothing is really, oh my god, this is the greatest figure in the format. This Black Panther stands out as a little bit strong. He is something you can build your team around. I do like that. And there are enough, I think, EarthX characters if you play in multiples, especially. One of the beauties of this format is because everything is common, you can play in multiples. It's not very frequently that figures jump the price barrier of like 50 cents to $1 on the common market. It's very rare. If they create a multiple man, every time they create a multiple man, that guy skyrockets. It's almost disgusting. So, what do we have here? We have Spider-Girl. Now, I've gone over who's good in the format, I think, in the last episode, where I kind of went over what's good, what's not. But always remember, Silver Sable is not going to be the figure we build around in this format. She's going to be the figure we add in to improve an already pretty decent team. So I kind of clicked on that, spacing out. I'm kind of liking the Red Union Jack. But again, he's a 30-point figure. We're not going to build around him. I like Big Fatty Spider-Man. But let's start, you know what? Let's start with the big 'em. Let's start with Black Panther, okay? 90 points to the team. So what are we going to do with Black Panther? Well, we do have to do a couple of important checks. We got to look through his keywords. So very, very quickly, we're going to take care of the named keyword, the first named keyword, which is EarthX. And what do we get out of EarthX? Well, we get Spider-Man, Karnak. You know what? Let's just pop it up. Okay, so our commons become the Police Sergeant, the 2 Hydra guys, the Red Union Jack, Spider-Man, Black Panther, who we've already got, the Carry. We're gonna call this guy's Carry Spider-Man for our format, for this, just because, or Dad Bod Spider-Man, Dad Bod Man, and Karnak. Now, this keyword is probably the one that's the most limited because this is all we have the fast forces to work with, and we have the commons in this set because EarthX as a keyword for this format barely exists. It is what it is. So we can start building around with a Red Union Jack. And one of the neat things, remember always, with a named keyword team is you do get probability control. So we don't have to worry about building with probability control. I also think Karnak should be one of our first adds. The reason for which is Karnak is a good, solid secondary attacker who has also got some evasion in his precision strike. He also brings perplex and some late dial prob. On dial prob is not something that's bad in a team that has theme probs because theme probs are still very limited by the number of figures on your team. And I do think that the perplex in this case is going to be great. And the precision strike goes a long way in this format because there's going to be a lot of characters that say use combat reflexes or perplexes or whatever to increase defenses. And Karnak kind of gets around that in his own way, along with getting precision strike because there's a lot of squish in this form. Look at this. Our first 2 characters are both kind of relying on some form of super sense. Because our Black Panther, who ignores elevated and hindering terrain for movement, is also blessed with the traded Stealth and Blade's Claws. It's a special defense power that gives him combat reflexes, super senses, and willpower. So he's only indomitable for the first 2 clicks. Cool. And then he's got the special damage power in the first 3 clicks, which gives him leadership and outwit. Both very good powers and very important powers to have in the format, which means we don't have to look to Silver Sable for the team. And then when he uses leadership, if he gets a 6, he can instead remove all action tokens from the chosen character and modify their attack by +1. So we want guys who can attack very well near Black Panther in this team, and just generally being perplexed. So Karnak just is a good target for that and also very good at perplexing himself. Now, what I do want to point out about the Spider-Man is that he's a less limited carry to a certain degree. And what I mean by that is he's, in addition to being PD and Spider-Man, we'll get to later, he does a weird thing where he carries, doesn't have to start next to the character, just has to move through a square they're in, and is very good at both evasion and forward movement without having to worry about a lot of things that might stop him. So if a character gets Battle Fury, let's say, the Spider-Man will get around it. If they cannot be carried, then, as long as they're not a non-standard character, he can move them, right? So I think this Spider-Man is very good for Earth X as a kind of a taxi, to say the least. So then, I'm just the worst at navigating this site with the scrolly window. Now, the Spiders Man is okay, but I think for the points we're paying for him, we want to check other possible sources because he's primarily a perplexer. So we look at the version that comes in the starter, not so good. What do we got out of Black Panther? I think we're running a Black Panther who's good enough, and I'm going to come back to him because I think at 50 points, adding the extra perplex could go a long way. Plus, he's also got some late dial prob. The only problem, of course, with this guy is that he gets absolutely annihilated if he can't roll that shape change against a Cable. We have another dad bod Spider-Man. Kind of fits in the not as good form. We do have a version of President Osborn we can use who's not as good as the other one. He's got a special attack on his late dial. Friendly characters that share a keyword can use regeneration but heal one less click. And he's got this Twisted Leadership, which is exploit weakness, and when he uses leadership and succeeds, you can also give an action token to opposing character within 6 squares and line of fire. I think that's pretty cool, and it puts him in the consideration zone. This version of the Skull, not as good as the other one, but he flip-flops between Mastermind and Super Senses, so if we have a way to kind of keep him alive, his mind control could go a long way format-wise. King Britain, of course, is a big beater in this one. If an opposing effect would cause a friendly character to be given an action token or roll d6 on a 3-6, friendly characters does not get. So meta-wise, that doesn't really have a huge effect on the format. But you can bring him in at 25 points as a bit of a beat stick / taxi. So also a worthy consideration. I would probably put President Osborn though in the team. Even though we've already got leadership covered, the role for leadership does kind of cumulatively work in the fact that you can take off multiple action tokens off of multiple characters, which goes a long way. And you can do a fantastic job of actioning out characters with his special leadership. So I think that's very cool. Though I'm kind of iffy on this, to be brutally honest. So we go back to the common slot. We see if there's anything else. I think Red Union Jack in duplicate is really good in format. The fact that he increases damage dealt on Energy Explosion is super great because we're already dealing with the problem of Batman Beyond and Cable being in format. If they can get an Energy Explosion on somebody that's next to them, you can start any little bit coming off of those characters as far as damage is concerned goes a long way, and these guys just further the cause, as it were. It's a shame the blue Union Jacks didn't quite make the format as they're uncommon. I think they would do a fabulous job in. So after a little bit of consideration, I feel like President Osborn doesn't really fit where we're going because we are kind of offensive here. So unless we went with a little bit more of a focused on action tokening, I feel like Osborn's not really doing what we want. And I want to go back to this. So we're going to double up on Black Panthers. We have one major attacking Black Panther and one secondary Black Panther. Heck, we could he put us 5 points over. You have 20 points to run with. There is equipment we can use in the format. There's our Guardian Shield. There's a few, I think we've discussed in the past, there's a few ID cards that work. All of which are valid options for this team. So we're going to take that team. We're going to go with another version on the Black Panther. I want to explore Animal in the common slot in Modern right now to see where it sits. I don't think it sits as particularly potent powered keywords. So that's all of the animals in Modern. I should probably drop my rarity to common. Boom. All right. So we have tribbles. Tribbles are potential for filling up numbers. Werewolves, I think, are vastly underrated. And I'm actually going to include 2 of them on the team. The reason for this is, if you look at these first 2 clicks, these are the 2 clicks he starts on, and then it either becomes this or... Oh, jeez Louise. So werewolves, I think, are drastically underrated. Drastically. We'll put them in for now. I might take them out. There's a lot of Ninja Turtles who are common. It's a shame Turtle Set number 1 is oof. Yes, the new Wakanda location bonus would actually go very well with that previous team because of all the super senses I put on there. You're absolutely correct, Ricky. Rick. So also in Earth X, we have the lizard, the rhino. The rhino is apparently. I've never seen him go animalistic, but whatever. I'm not here to talk game design. In Avengers Infinity, we have this Rocket, who this is not going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy theme team, so he's actually going to be 12 attack, 3 damage. Or sorry, 12 attack, 18. Sorry, 12 attack, 18 defense, not 3 damage. Jason, worth a consideration. One thing to note too, we kind of want to aim to find some source of prob in this team. Michelangelo is usually a guy that he tends to have it, but he tends to also not have it. We got to find an animal with prob, because one of the things about animal keyword, the animal keyword, is that it's generic, and generic keywords tend to lack that probability control that really goes a long way. Is the Guardians 2 still legal? I think it is. I think it's still... Yeah, it is. It is. So, yeah, there we go. We got this Rocket Raccoon. He's 65 points. Also a consideration. He does 3 damage. He's got running shot. He's got energy. Sorry, guys. I kind of lost connection there for a second. I apologize for that. I'm not sure if it's going to hold, but we'll keep trying. Anyway, so we have Rocket Raccoon would be a good source of prop if we add him in. Where do we stand? 235, so we have about 65 points. We explore with Catman. I don't think the Catman does what the Catman do. Cheetah. I'd use those at your own discretion. The stats on this cheetah are, for 40 points, she's not great, but she's not bad. Don't sleep on this guy. Chipmunk Hunk on a common animal team. Don't sleep on him. Long distance quakes go far. Anyway, kind of going through the ruler keyword. I don't think the common. It's one of those things. Sometimes there'll be keywords that don't quite bridge certain rarities, and a lot of rulers tend to sit on the higher rarity. But it's always worth an investigation, because it's so easy to do because of HC Realms. But this is what we get out of ruler uncommon. It's not there. I mean, you can force it with a bunch of Black Panthers. It's up to you. I'll leave that in your dedicated hands. But Wakanda, I wanna see what Wakanda can do. It is a named keyword, so that's a cool factor. Modern, common, Wakanda. Now, here's one of the things. It's not going to be a plentiful keyword. It's not going to have a lot of characters in the slot, especially in modern. You're going to see that kind of limitation. So then it comes down to, are any of these worth playing multiples of? Now, there's, of course, the Wakandan Warriors. Not bad. And, they get willpower near a Black Panthers. Lots of options for Black Panther in the Wakandan keyword. There's also the Shifting Focus Black Panther, who adds Outwit or a close combat guy. I'd say he's almost playable with 2 of them, to be brutally honest. There's the Hot Toot Zarazis, who are good. Not great, but they are good. Especially when you take into effect that they are impervious when targeted by a range attack, and 2 of the strongest... Batman Beyond is going to swipe through it with the blade or with the Psychic Blast. But when Cable moves and attacks, these guys will be able to get through impervious rolls because Cable can't use Psychic Blast with his move and attack. So take that into account when considering the Wahatut Zarazi. And then, of course, there's also this Black Panther who is traded with Stealth. And when he KOs a character, he can use charges free. This is one of those guys that if he gets in, he gets in, he gets in. I'm here. Did I kill you? Cool. Now I'm going to run through your team. or run through another dude. I like him. I want to like him more, but I don't think he really fits into it. So multiple Wakandans is one way to go. Multiple Black Panthers. It's going to be like a heavy Black Panther team, this Wakandan build. And that's just kind of a direction we can go. So that's building with the big point guy in the common slot. Always worth a look. Taking a look at these big dudes that show up in the common slot. Now we also have things. So we talked about figures in the set and where they stand in the format in their own world, but I don't think I spent enough time really kind of identifying where they fit in the already existing characters in the format. And we also, when rotation hits, we have to have a long conversation again about what may or may not kind of fluctuate in and out of the format. And, we'll address how small the format actually becomes on its own, absent of all those sets that end up rotating. Anyway, I think that's all I got for that. If you guys have any questions, get them in the chat. If you're watching live and you are a patron and you're not in the patron hangout call, the link is out. Both we posted it on the patron wall and we sent it to you in your inboxes. So if you want to join the call and or join in on a call and talk about the format, by all means, now is that time. I do want to take a second though, because I love doing this. This is one of my more fun games. Let's look at the Sinister Syndicate and what options we have. So we have, because this is the obvious thing, the Sinister Syndicate and the Secret Six both exist as a team, and they're all 50-point characters for the most part. I think. I don't know what secret. Let's take a quick peek at Joker's Wild before it disappears. Because come March, I think that tournament that Rick is going to be in will still have the format, or will still have this set in the format. Now, I think the only Secret Six guy, or was that? No, that was Harley, wasn't it? It wasn't Joker's Wild, it was Harley. Cool, these guys are going to be around for a while, so let's see what we got. So for Secret Six, we do have Catman. We have Knockout, because I think she's both Secret Six and Suicide Squad, yeah. So Catman, Knockout, I believe Stompa is Apocalypse. I want to come back to Stompa at some point. She's beautiful. I think that's it. Is that it? No, Plastique is... No? Scarecrow? Hive Trooper? Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to remember who the Secret Six guys are. Why don't we just hit this? So it is only Catman and Knockout. Okay, cool. But they can be used in conjunction with, and you can still get that bonus off of all of them. But one thing is worth mentioning is that Catman is an animal. And in Earth X, both Lizard, who also has that if you have 6 characters thing, and Rhino also follow that if you have 6 characters situation. So you can include these guys with some triples for character number manipulation to kind of maintain a particularly tough team. And if you look at Rhino, man, those stats. Oh, man. But yeah, so I just wanted to take a second and just say, let's think about these guys. I might swing around on... I'm going to have an episode next week. Usually I try to run the show a little more bi-weekly. But because I screwed up last week, it's only fair that I give you guys 2 episodes 2 weeks in a row. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And we'll also... So next week we're going to talk about where characters in the Earth X set fall under the teams that we've already kind of established. Like we've established the black. I don't think they fit into the Black Talon team. That team kind of sits on its own. But where does it sit in the Cable? Where does it sit with the Batman Beyonds? Where does it sit with the Don't Die Lokis? I also want to address something that not a lot of people have been talking to me about, and it is the existence of, though not for much longer, the existence of Stiltman. He's a tough dude. And I think we discussed him in our Don't Die tech, but we'll address that as well next week when I have some more extensive study and notes and thought time on it, because he's recently been brought to my attention, but I haven't put enough thought process into the character to really address what I think is worth looking into. Both as I'm looking at the wrong screen here. I'm supposed to be looking at this for the figure and what to do with him or against him. All right, but we're gonna jump into the chat. And Ricky L. I hope I'm saying that right. I know I'm jumping the gun, but did you notice a new Nick Fury Jr. from Captain Marvel and the potential combo with Fast Force Hulk? I have not looked too deeply in a lot of the common figures. The only one I've seen was looked at was the Chase Captain Marvel. But if there is potential with that Fast Force Hulk, we are going to talk about it when we get this set in, because yes, this movie set's commons will be legal in this format. So it is worth a conversation. Lucian Carter, man, I wish I could memorize the color codes and analyze cards as fast as you folks, but I'm new. You know what? We were all new at some point. I, for the longest time, thought Controller, I think his name is his name from. Okay, so if we go back to the first day this game, the early days that this game existed, I used to think. I'm gonna pull him up now. Where is he? God, sets were so big. I used to have the first veteran figure I owned was this guy here, the Controller. And if you look at that dial, look at that mid-dial spike. That's so cool, but I also want to point out that was a high defense at the time. At that top dial defense, but you see how it tanks? We used to call this, in the old parlance, a figure who was easy to heal, because healers were always as part of the team. But I used to think this guy was good. And anybody who played back then can definitely tell you Jason was very wrong about this figure. And then, when it comes down to it, memorizing the colors is not easy at first. And this is one of those new player-friendly sort of situations. It's do not expect yourself to memorize it from day one. It's not going to happen overnight. But eventually, over time, as you play the game more and more and more, you start to do something in your brain will start figuring out how all the powers start to work. The way it worked for me was I took one color at a time and figured out what they do in each slot. Because it's one thing you'll notice is there's a set number of colors, and each color in each slot does a thing. So green in the movement is going to be charge. Green in the attack is going to be super strength. Green in the defense is going to be energy shield. And green in the damage is going to be enhancement. And once you start to understand what each of those powers do in each of the individual colors, you start to really kind of gather your memorization and analysis ability. But never expected new player to just when it first showed up, I was not a big fan of dials on cards, and I still I'm not a fan of the initial design that they put out, because the initial design they put out was on the front of the card, and here it clicks the dial's always been a thing, an important element of the game to say the least. But with that said, by putting the dial on the back of the card, you as a newer player are more informed and able to make better decisions based on what you see on the dial, whether you can push, how much damage you can take, how much risk you can take with the character that you are putting out there. And I think that you got to use the tools that you have, and it will all start to pour in, man. And it's all part of that thing I say every week on the Metal Lab is get that practice, because practice will make you better. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes your team better. Practice makes you better. Practice helps you understand the game, and that's all elements of just getting there. As far as your question there regarding higher flunky generators and tinkerers, that is actually a question that we would address on the Meta Lab more frequently, because we more or less, this is conversation for a format I created called the Everyman format, which is strictly commons and fast force and starter kits figures. But Lucian, I will just say that is an interesting selection of guys, and I know hired flunkies are already part of a lot of my strategies. But people who know me know I'm trying to make as many characters as I possibly can, and therefore I've been breathing heavily a lot ever since I saw that prize Isaac. So if you know me, I'm all about bystander generation. So yeah, keep on me. And ask us on the Facebook or by email. And by all means, ask me those questions or on the Meta Lab, and we will happily address those questions on those shows without hesitation. I'm going to keep it open for another 2 minutes for patrons. If you have a live question, by all means, jump in. Take a second to say that our patrons at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks helpful supporters, and at the $5 up range, you do get access to our call-in portion of the show. We do address questions in text, but if you want to get your face in there and ask with your words, because sometimes you just can't ask the question in text, or you can't put the words to text, and those supporters who have a little trouble with that, or those supporters who do enjoy a little bit of camera time, get to share that with us. So we open up a Google Hangout link, and anybody who wants to jump in at those price values is perfectly welcome to it. But it looks like we're not going to be getting anybody today, which is also very cool. No problems with that. So before we go, I do want to thank everybody for your interest in the format. If you're running an Everyman tournament locally, out in the world, I don't care where you're running it. If you're running I don't care what the prizing is. If you're running a 300-point Everyman format tournament, I do want to hear your results. I want to know about what teams are being played. So email us at marriedwithclicks@gmail.com so we can discuss it on this show and just keep the meta forming for the show and the conversation forming for that meta. But that said, yes, Lucian Carter, Bullet Club for life. Have a good night, guys, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Every Man for Everyone. Because, guys, when everyone's special, no one is.